Module 8, active and passive verbs. Let's look at a couple of definitions. First of all, an active verb. A verb is considered active if the subject of the sentence is doing the action indicated by the main verb. Let's look at an example. John hit the ball. Hit is the main verb of this simple sentence, and John is the subject. Now, there is some hitting going on in this sentence. So we ask ourselves, is the subject doing the hitting in this sentence? In other words, is the subject doing the action indicated by the main verb? In this case, yes, John is doing the hitting. So this is considered an active verb. Hit is an active verb. Let's look at a passive verb. A verb is considered passive if the subject of the sentence is not doing the action indicated by the main verb. Let's look at an example. Bill was fired by his supervisor. Was fired is the verb, and the subject of this sentence is Bill. There is some firing or terminating going on in this sentence. Is the subject doing the firing? Is Bill doing the firing? No. The subject in this sentence is not doing the action indicated by the main verb. So therefore, was fired is considered a passive verb. Now, at this point, you might be asking, why is it important to understand active and passive verbs? Well, in business writing, we like to use active verbs as much as possible, because sentences with active verbs tend to be more straightforward. Not only are they a little bit shorter, but in terms of the reception of the sentence, the reception of the ideas you're trying to get across, they're easier to understand. Now, there's a few helpful hints we have to look at. First of all, a passive verb always contains a form of the verb to be as a helper. Let's look at an example. Let's look at this example. The report will be submitted on time. Will be submitted is the verb in this sentence, main verb, and the report is the subject. There's some submitting going on in this sentence. Is the report or is the subject doing the submitting? No, the report is not doing the submitting. So this is considered a passive verb. Will be submitted is a passive verb. Notice that it has a form of to be in it. Passive verbs will always have a form of to be as a helper. Other forms of to be, remember, are is, are, am, was, were, and be, as is the case up here. So let's look at an active verb. We will submit the report on time. So this is a very similar sentence to the first sentence. However, will submit is the verb here. The subject is we. So some submitting is going on again. Is the subject doing the submitting? Yes, we are doing the submitting. Okay, so that verb will submit is considered active. All right, but you have to be careful. Let's look at this third sentence. In this third sentence, I am happy. Here, the verb is am, and the subject is I. In this case, the action indicated by the verb is to be. Something or someone is being something. So we ask ourselves, is the subject I being something? And yes, the subject is being something. So in this active verb sentence, am is the active verb. So be very careful. Just because you see a form of to be in the verb doesn't necessarily mean the verb is going to be passive. Helpful hint number 2. Often the term passive is confused with the term past. It is important to realize that active and passive verb forms have nothing whatsoever to do with whether the verb is past or present or future tense. Okay? Active and passive verbs can be past tense, present tense, future tense, it doesn't matter. Let's look at a couple of examples. The first example, Megan is being rewarded by the teacher. This is a passive verb. Is being rewarded is a passive verb. Megan is the subject. In this case, Megan is not doing the action. The rewarding in this sentence is being done by the teacher. In this case, it's present tense. So this is a passive verb in the present tense. The second example is a passive verb in the past tense. Megan was rewarded by the teacher. Was rewarded is the main verb. Megan is the subject. Megan is not doing the rewarding. So again, it's a was rewarded is a passive verb. And it's a passive verb in the past tense. And in the third example, the passive verb will be rewarded with Megan as the subject. The passive verb will be rewarded is in future tense. So again, to reiterate, passive should not be confused with the term past, because a passive verb can be present tense, past tense, or future tense. Helpful hint number 3. Even if the doer of the action indicated by the passive verb is not indicated, the verb is still considered passive. Let's look at an example. Ken was congratulated. Was congratulated is the verb here. Ken is the subject. We've got some congratulating going on in this sentence. Is the subject doing the congratulating? No. Ken, the subject, is not congratulating himself. Someone is congratulating Ken. We don't know who, but that doesn't change the fact that this is still a passive verb, even though we don't know who did the congratulating. And finally, helpful hint number 4. Be careful. If an active verb is modified by the adverb not, it is still considered active. For example, John did not hit the ball. All right, the verb here is did hit. That's our verb, and our subject is John. Now, there is some hitting going on in this sentence. Actually, there's some not hitting going on. And this is what can be confusing. Forget the word not. Okay? It's an adverb. It describes did hit. And in terms of meaning of the sentence, absolutely not is extremely important. However, in terms of figuring out whether this is an active or passive verb, try to forget the word not. So there's some hitting going on. Is John doing the hitting? Yes, the subject of the sentence is doing the hitting. So did not hit is considered an active verb. Again, even though it says not, that John is not doing any hitting. Let's forget about the word, the adverb not, in this case, and think about the fact that the action indicated by the verb is hitting. And again, we ask the question, is the subject doing the hitting? Yes, the subject is doing the hitting. So did not hit is considered an active verb. Did hit is considered an active verb, and not is an adverb.